Welcome, everyone. This is Custom Bots GPTs, a subgroup of AI in education. May 6th is our May showcase, and we are on our 13th monthly meeting and about our 11th, 10th showcase. We've heard feedback that you all want to hear examples. You all want to hear what our educators are doing hands-on, and that is what the showcases are all about. I heard about Brent Warner's work a while ago, and I just wanted him to come to share with you. In the meantime, because it took a while to set it up, I kept hearing recommendations about his work and people saying, "Oh, you got to check out what Brent is doing in the classroom." And he is a professor at Irvine Valley College. He's also a podcast co-host. And you can find links to his podcast and more information about him in our agenda. And today he's going to bring together a lot of things. AI bots, of course, language learning, and gamification. So please welcome Brent to our group. He will present some of what he's doing. And if we have time, there will also be breakout rooms to try things out, maybe more than one round. And yes, welcome, Brent. Thank you so much for coming to present today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Good morning for everybody who is willing to wake up. Well, I guess it kind of depends on where you are. If you are where I am, that's an early morning wake up to get started. I'm in California. Some of you might be, in all sorts of different time zones, it seems like, looking at the chat. So thank you all for joining. Do appreciate it. We're going to talk. Let's just get right into it. We're gonna have limited time, so let's not dilly-dally. I will get right to sharing, and we'll get going with everything. Cassandra, please feel free shout out if you see something in the chat that is relevant in the moment. I'm happy to pause and jump into any conversations or questions as we go. But we'll start off with a little bit and see how we go from here. So we are going to be building AI bots to gamify language learning. Whether you are teaching in a language acquisition classroom of some level, English language teaching if you're in TESOL, or if you just have students with language learning issues that you want to kind of help them along with things, help them get some more practice, maybe in ways that are more fun than a bunch of worksheets. We'll play around with those ideas as well. So briefly, my name is Brent Warner. You can find me out there on the internet. I'll give you some resources later on if you're interested. But I am just to kind of tell you a little bit about my setting. I am a professor at a community college here in Southern California. I teach in both our credit and non-credit programs, and we teach academic writing for multilingual learners, so helping to learn, moving beyond the BICS and into the CALP, if you're familiar with those terms, helping students kind of push their level up on their academic English. And then I also teach in the non-credit program for conversation classes, where we're also doing some AI explorations as well. So we're going to get started. We did see some of the information here, just that, maybe there's a number of people here who kind of consider themselves beginners or lower intermediate. No matter what level you are, stick around. We've got some things for you to look at and play with, but I want to kind of start with making sure that we really understand the fundamentals here. So I think that most people already kind of understand the idea of working with a bot. You type in whatever you're chatting and it responds to you. That is our basic starting level here. But we want to look at what it means to actually build a bot, right? So we're not going to spend a long time on this, but just want to make sure that we kind of understand the fundamentals. So when you look at a video game and you're playing those games, and you can go all the way back to your old Super Mario Brothers versions, all the way to what we're doing today. When you tap on a button on your controller, so if you hit the A button, for example, your character jumps, right? So tap A and that equals jump. Tap B, that equals squat, right? And so at a very overview basic level, that's kind of what we're doing when we're building a bot. We are programming that A and B, or we're trying to set it up so that hopefully when the student hits A, then the bot will jump. And when the student hits B, then the bot will squat. But it's much more, in depth than that. But that's kind of the idea, is that they're not going into a total free zone of just all interactions with all AI. Instead, it is, a planned out bot that kind of works in the background and tries to follow the rules that we have provided for it. Um, so today we'll be using PlayLab as the primary conversation. When we get to the end, I'll also jump out of PlayLab and use ChatGPT as an example, because we're going to do a little bit of voice chatting as well. But to start, we're going to look at text and PlayLab, and some of these tools do not have voice capability quite yet. We'll see. We'll see if that comes in down the line. I'm sure it will for almost everybody as we keep moving forward. But we're going to look a little bit. One of the things that is very nice about PlayLab, and you can go to it right now, playlab.ai. Although I will tell you, sometimes the getting signed up and waiting, it does take a little bit of time. You can use these ideas with any platform that you like. So, but I'm going to use PlayLab because the biggest one for me is that it is FERPA compliant. So if you are worried about your students' privacy, about data going out there, this one is protecting your students' data, and they're quite serious about it. If you've ever talked to any of the PlayLab people, they're like, that's kind of the number one on their mission around everything, is like, how are we protecting our students? How are we making sure everything's good?
Brent, quick question. Are your
Mhm.
students over age of 18?
My
Someone asked.
students are, yes. So at the
Okay.
community college, yes, they are over the age of 18. But we still have requirements to keep their data safe and private. So we're still bound to FERPA rules as well. Okay, so we're gonna start. Before anything else, we're gonna just get into a little bit of a play. I'm gonna give you a couple minutes here. You'll be able to see this, and let me drop this into the chat. Where'd my chat go? Just a moment here, I lost my mouse. So I'm gonna drop this link into the chat. If you see this edushare.ing, that is a link sharing website that I built because Bitly is putting advertisements into everything now, and all the companies are putting advertisements. And so you can use this as well if you like. It's totally free for teachers to share their resources with no ads and no tracking and anything like that. So anyways, edushare.ing/Ohtani, and you can go quickly play with this on your own, or you can watch me on the screen. We're going to take a look at what one of these bots might look like. So here, I've got the, this is going to be the tattoo prompt, and we'll see what this actually looks like. I'll explain that in a moment, but let's get started here. So if you can see this, I know, let me see if I can zoom in just a little bit here, just to make it a little bit more visible. All right, hopefully that works. So it says, welcome to Shohei Ohtani's secret past tense adventure. Are you ready to get started? I'll say yes. And it says, let's dive into our story. So here's what ends up happening. It says, now I know that the biggest sin is just reading for everybody on a presentation, but part of the conversation here requires understanding what's going on with the text. So so bear with me as I do a little bit of reading and you read along together with me. We'll think of it like story time. So in a world where baseball wasn't just a game, but a way of life, Shohei Ohtani, the legendary two-way player, faced a new challenge. Period. Dr. Screwball, a notorious villain, plan to use his evil inventions to disrupt the balance of the world. Shohei knew he had to act quickly. One evening, as Shohei prepared his gear, he had heard a faint whisper through his window. It was a message from an old friend warning him about Dr. Screwball's latest plan to steal the world. So basically, you kind of get this setup of a story going on here about Shohei Ohtani. For those of you who are baseball fans, he's apparently the money that he makes is not enough, and so he's moonlighting as a spy in the evening and protecting the world from Dr. Screwball. So here you can see this. It says, without hesitation, Shohei dashed out, and it says, can you first help Shohei by converting these verbs to the past tense? So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say faced, planned, and I'll try to make a mistake on one of the planned, planed, we'll say planed, and actually I might not catch that, and prepared, we'll see. Great effort. Oh, good. It did catch it. Okay, so here we go. Face, correct. Shohei challenge, face the challenge head on. Planed, almost there, right? Remember when it ends with an N, you're going to be adding and you add ed. It typically becomes PLANNED and prepared. Okay, so here's where it goes. And so when I get enough correct, it's going to help me and let me continue on with the story. And so I'm going to keep going forward, and it's going to say as he sneaked through the shadows, he here, blah blah blah, spot. And so then I'll keep playing these. So I'll say sneaked. Heard. We'll go with heard and spot. Let's see what happens if I get two wrong. It tells me I didn't quite get these ones right, but now it's going to still help me continue the story. So I'm listening to the story, I'm kind of playing along, and then things will open up a little bit as I go. This one is not super in depth, but we just wanted to kind of get the idea of students having the chance to interact with the language here as they're going. So we're going to then move into kind of an understanding of how I built this first, and then I'll show you the actual prompt itself. You may have seen out there that there are people who have different structures for how they build prompts. And so you kind of say, hey, what's the role and what's the intention and whatever else it is. There's all sorts of these structured prompts. They're wonderful. Any one of them can be useful for you. I built one that's specifically built for English language learners. And so these are the categories that I'm trying to hit when I'm building out my prompts. Sometimes I don't use it all the time, and you'll see I'll give examples, when I don't use it as well. So don't feel like, oh, you didn't use it. It's by setting and by situation. But this is what I use for kind of my baseline. So when you set it up, if you have these kind of rules, that makes it easier for the bots to respond more precisely and more accurately with what you're doing. So the task is kind of the big picture. What do you want the bot to actually do? Then the actor, who is the bot supposed to act as? So is it a teacher with a PhD? Is it an instructional designer? Is it a historical figure, right? You might want to play around with what you want the bot to consider itself to be. The tone, who is communicating, or who is it communicating to and how, right? What details are important to clarify about the user and their needs? So oftentimes I will say, something like, my student is struggling and feeling like they're not encouraged. Please be gentle and encouraging. And you might have another student that says, no, I need strict and harder feedback. And so you might want to change that tone to, be more of a taskmaster type of thing. So you can change all of these things inside of here. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. This image took me a long time to build, so I keep using it all over the place. All right. Tone. So again, as we said, what's that tone you're trying to get? Translation. This one kind of goes back and forth, but I think it's worth putting in because you can also say, do you want it to translate to support students that have, more language needs, versus do you want it to maybe never translate? You're saying, hey, for this one, if a student asks you to translate into another language, don't do it, right? And you can kind of set up those parameters as well. Your objective, what is the goal of the responses? Do you want it to try and correct every single mistake, etc.? And then what do you want the output to look like? So I am going to show you the back end of this
Brent,
exact,
quick
yes.
question. What
Mhm.
did you use to make the image? You got some love for the Brent bot image.
I think it's been a little while. I think I built it in Mid-Journey actually.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
so thank you.
Okay.
My wife saw this one yesterday and she started laughing. I guess she'd never seen it before either. So I'm glad it's working. All right, so let's take a look here at the actual PlayLab back end of things. I'm not going to have time to give it a full background, but you can see that this was using ChatGPT 4.0, and then the variability is like how creative do you want it to be in the responses? Maybe it'll give more different types of answers every time versus more locked in. But I'm going to not worry too much about that for right now because we just want to look at how the Ohtani one was built. So Again, we're going to do a little bit of reading, make sure that we really understand how each of these are set up. So the AI will guide a user through a past tense practice game using an interactive storytelling format. The AI will generate a story about Shohei Ohtani saving the world from Dr. Screwball. Throughout the story, the AI will quiz the user on the past tense by presenting dictionary form verbs that the user must convert to past tense. So then I said here, it acts as an engaging and supportive language tutor, providing structured yet dynamic feedback. It maintains the balance between being a narrator and coach, keeping the story immersive while reinforcing language learning. Um, by the way, you guys, you're welcome to steal all of these, of course, and use them to kind of prioritize and build your own things. That is the intention here. And so every part of these can be changed to match your own needs. So the tone is friendly, encouraging, and slightly playful. It makes the story engaging while it keeps the expectations clear and concise, and ensures that the users stay motivated even when making mistakes. And so you saw that it was not like, no, you're wrong, go away, right, type of thing. It was much more, hey, oh, it was close, you did a good job. Now, some of you might say, well, that's not close enough for me. And so you might want to change some of that language as well, depending on your needs. Translation, the AI should avoid translation unless the user specifically requests it. Instead, it should focus on concise explanations in English. And then the objective here, help the user practice the past tense and the verb and conjugation in engaging ways, provide immediate but minimal feedback. And this one was important to me. I didn't want it to go because it will give textbooks. If you ask it to, it will give you so much information. And so I said, keep it minimal, keep it short. We just want it punchy, jumping into these things, and then track user performance and determine storyboard outcomes, etc. And then finally, at the very end, it will summarize your strengths and weaknesses and help you review. So then the output here, I clarified this. So that was the objective. And then the output, I have several different subsections in here. Integrate storytelling with integrated quizzing. The AI generates a story of 150 to 200 words each. Use 3 verbs in the dictionary form, bolded for the user to convert. And then I had scoring situation in scoring and immediate feedback. You can see the user attempts to correct the 3 verbs. If the user makes a mistake, the AI pauses to give a brief explanation. And then it says the AI prompts the user to continue again. And then I say here, if the user gets 2 or 3 correct, Shohei succeeds in the part of the adventure. If it gets 2 or 3 incorrect, Shohei fails. And then basically, once they've gone through 18 to 24 past tense verbs, then they should be done and move through everything inside of here.
Brent,
Yeah,
do you have
mhm,
time for some quick questions?
please, yeah.
Have you tried other models with it?
Yeah, you can jump in. So you mean inside of
Yeah, have you yourself tested others, or you're like, oh, for
yeah,
hours? Yeah.
yeah. I've jumped this around into it, and it plays to different strengths and weaknesses. So if you don't have PlayLab, I've done it in ChatGPT. ChatGPT has the back end where you can build bots and things, but not everybody. They've had mixed. They keep changing the rules around who can access these things. So
Yeah.
I find it hard to keep on top of. I've done it with Microsoft Copilot as well. And so sometimes in those settings, what I do is just give the students the entire prompt and have them cut and paste it as the starting point. But the reason that I like PlayLab or any of these kind of bots that you build on the back end is because they don't have to see what all of that is. They can just go right into the activity because, that can create some a little bit of not too much of a problem, but it can be a little bit of cognitive strain, and they might spend more time going back onto that instead of just
Right, right. Yeah,
practicing
I
with the
think they were
language.
asking, yeah, just within PlayLab. Would you mind
Yeah.
showing the first part again
Oh, sure,
as
sure,
you
sure.
explain?
Sorry.
And
So
someone asked, is there a deliberate mismatch in the language level of storytelling, more intermediate, and the language task more novice level?
you can change it to whatever you want. So you can be intentional to play with it. You can say, hey, I really want this to simplify. You can also put in, if you use Cepher levels, for example, if you're using the Common European Framework, you can. I would avoid saying things like make it for beginning students, make it for advanced students, because that doesn't really mean anything. But when you have a structural form like the Common European Framework, and you say, hey, make it roughly at the A1 level, it does do a better job at sticking closer to that level. Whereas beginner is like, what does that mean? My experience still is that a lot of times it slips from the the consistency of how the language level inside of it, but overall, it tends to work pretty well, and my students responded positively to this as they were
Okay.
going through.
One more for now. You can,
Mhm.
there's a lot of interest and amazing. Someone asking about how are students onboarded? Like, do they know to take advantage of the translation option?
So I will talk them through it a little bit. So, again, we're with my students, we're always kind of open and saying, hey, we're exploring this stuff, we're trying to learn it and understand. I think that is a wise approach overall because the students, we need to teach them skepticism around it as well, right? So it's not just all in and everything is good. We want to say like, hey, let's take a look and see what some of the problems might be. This one is a little bit more fun, so it's not necessarily so much in there, but yes, you can play with that. The variability, again, you can play with all of these. The default tends to be pretty good because I want it to choose different choices, but if I really wanted it to lock down and say you must follow exactly these rules every single time, for example, maybe if I was doing irregular verbs, you can actually upload into the references like a list of all of the irregular verbs and say, only pull from these resources. But yes, I do see the question in there about using with other languages. Yes, you can absolutely use other languages. It's all pulling from the same chatbots, so it is pulling from ChatGPT or Claude or whichever one you choose out here, depending on your goals. I have a hard time saying you should use this one as your choice because next week that can change. But normally for me, if it's ChatGPT, I kind of know what it's at. If it's Claude, maybe I'm doing a little bit more of a writing heavy idea. Whew, okay, we got a lot to cover.
We actually have more, but I'll let you keep going because yeah, well, keep
All
going,
right.
keep going.
Okay.
I'm keeping track. Okay.
Well, okay, so we might then maybe we'll just keep it here then conversations instead of breakouts because I was gonna say like let's build, but we're definitely gonna run out of time because people have a lot of questions for these. So we can take a few. Let's do a shorter breakout. Let's do that instead. So let's do a 5-minute breakout. And what I'd like you to do is you can use this Ohtani prompt, and let me actually give you a link to my resource page here. Um, if you scroll down, let me show this to you. Just a moment. Okay, if you scroll down, I built this page for you guys, and it's got all the resources and the slide deck and everything that we're using here today. But when you click on this, you can actually copy and paste the entire prompt if you like it. If you want to use it, you can make your own variations for these as well. But please go ahead and we'll take 5 minutes to put you out into breakout rooms. You don't necessarily have to build anything, but you guys can discuss with each other a couple of the ideas on how would you maybe change this, maybe different language features that you're working with, how would it fit your needs, what rules might work, and remember that it's always inconsistent, so what rules might not work too, right? When we say, hey, I want it to be this, and then it doesn't do that, it can be frustrating, but we have to kind of figure out ways around those. So,
Yeah, and I
Cassandra,
would
you
say,
okay?
Brent, yeah, and don't worry about the platform for now because I
Yeah.
know not everybody has access to PlayLab. There are other alternatives. I shared platform product tracker there, and you can also watch a recording someone shared on Poe in March how to do it on Poe. So Brent, right, they're just like thinking about the prompt and how they would
And
adapt it for their needs.
yeah, and discussing it with each other. One of the best things is when you start talking to other people, you say, "Oh, this is how I would do," and then getting those sparks of ideas. So, just we'll just keep it to 5 minutes though. I always love it when it takes till the very end of the timer. That means people are
Yes, that
talking and
is a
not ready.
good sign. Oh, it's my time. Okay.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Thank you. I'm sorry again, the 5 minutes. I know it's not nearly enough time, but appreciate it. And quick shout out, does anybody want to unmute themselves and share an idea maybe they came up with or something they can use or remix or anything at all? Happy to share a little bit and have learning from the whole group instead of just one person. The room is smarter than the individual by far.
Hey, can I jump in, Brent? I just want to
Please.
ask Shannon. Shannon was in the breakout room and she was saying, I know I'm calling you out. We were asking like why she builds bots on one space or another. And I really liked what she was saying. She was saying that uh, Claude is like the professional or like a bot where a boss that you would like, whereas ChatGPT is going to respond like you're like a casual best friend. And then she was just about to say about Copilot and Gemini, how they respond in that space. I'd love just to hear the rest of what she was going to say.
All right.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and with Gemini and Copilot, they act like your admin assistant, right? That the person that helps you with emails. They like to find the fun pictures. Your social media person that likes to put out the fun things. They all definitely have their own lane. But I'm gonna tell you, I spend a lot of time doing SEL and empathy training on every single one I'm in. Just because, again, you're uploading information that is passing through time and space continually. So it needs to be balanced. It needs to be good. It needs to be forthright. And anyway, so that's what I try to put out there. But that's just the kind of feeling that I was getting when working in all these different spaces. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you both. All that that's its own whole wonderful conversation on like, and it's scary sometimes too, but really interesting points to be aware of is like what information are you putting into it, and how might that affect things longer term too. I thought I saw a hand up for a
I think
moment, but
Nathan had something quick one.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that we've been using PlayLab for about a month, and we've built advising agents for all of our career pathways for students and advisors to use. And the nice part is that we were able to build them in English and Spanish. And so one thing is that you couldn't combine the two together because of the instructions wouldn't allow it to work. But
oh,
and then we've also built a OER textbook building agent that only searches um, OER references and public domain documents and puts inside or in-text citations and references and also builds the teacher's edition if you ask it. So there's a lot of cool stuff. I mean, it's just about the imagination with PlayLab.
yes, indeed, absolutely. And we could go on and on and on for sure. Thank you, Nathan. There's a lot to think about there, but we're going to move forward a little bit here to a second game here that I built, which is a clue-inspired mystery game. So this one, it's not exactly Clue. You'll see. I'll show you again as we did in a moment. Let me get my chat back. No, I lost my chat. Hold on. So this one is a mystery game. Um, and it's called Mystery at Manor House. So we'll take a look and see what it looks like here. Again, this one is slightly different. This is built on noun clauses. So it says solve a mystery while you practice understanding the use of noun clauses as subject, object, and in reported speech. This one, my students responded really well to it. I keep wanting to fine tune it more and more and make sure that it's getting like every single point right. But again, my students were like, okay, at least this is giving me the starting points on the conversations around how to play with it. So here we go. It says, welcome to Mystery Academy, where you'll learn noun clauses to solve a crime. Type start. Okay, so we'll say start. And then it'll kind of give, I ask it actually here to give your name. So I'll just to say Brent W. The reason I'm asking it to give its name is because on the back end of PlayLab, I can go in and watch the chats that have come through. So instead of having to have every one of my students come in, I just or log in and create their own accounts, they can just use the public open one and I can just see, hey, their name is in there. And now I see that they did their work. So I'll just do Brent for now. Later in the future, when there's better integration for easy login, I might just have them do a login, but right now that's what I'm doing. So would you like to review the rules of noun clauses, or do you want to jump right into the game? So you can review and it'll kind of give you a book style review of noun clauses. I'm going to start with the game to get going with everything. And then here's what happened. So it says, you're my new assistant detective. I'm Detective Bot, and I need your help. The famous Manor House diamond was stolen last night. We need to solve this case using careful observation and witness interviews. You can investigate these areas. So I set it up where they can investigate the garden, the library, the safe room, the kitchen, the butler, the maid, the cook, and the security guard, right? So they're going to get a couple of different settings of places they can go and see. So, and then they can go investigate and use noun clauses to play with it. So it says, where would you like to begin the investigation? I'll say the garden. And then basically what it's going to do is going to give them a situation about some clues that maybe they might see inside of the garden. Again, this language is a little bit more advanced because my current students are a little bit more advanced, but you could simplify it if you feel like it's too difficult. You step into the misty garden, the morning dew sparkles on crushed roses. I might do this in adding in descriptive language if I wanted to play with some of those things for my students, really talking about like, hey, what language do we know inside of here? Deep footprints lead through the flower bed and a muddy trowel lies abandoned by the garden wall. They might not know the word trowel. Again, language opportunities. The ground ahead shows recent signs of digging. Though the nearby gate is covered in dirt, you notice the lock is shiny, indicating that it has been handled recently. Return to Detective Bot's office and use the noun clause beginning with what, where, or how to report your discoveries. What did you find? So I might say something like, what I found was a clean, shiny lock. I'll say padlock. So they're going to get into something like this. Excellent. What you found in the garden was a crucial clue, right? And then it kind of goes on. Would you like to interview someone? So I'll say interview the gardener. And then it's going to kind of play the same game where I'm going to kind of come back and forth as they go through this. Oh, and you can do different types of noun clauses. So of course, it's going to freeze as we're in the middle of displaying this. That is the nature of these technologies. But basically, it would go in, and then I could do reported speech. So I could say something like, oh, okay, here we go. Saying, I saw the cook in the kitchen while I was working. Strange. I was here so late. I did my usual rounds, 11:30, etc. And then I'll continue on with, the gardener said that they saw the cook at 11:30, right? And so I might say, so I can use that language. The gardener said that, he told me that, etc. And this is again practicing the language as I'm going through everything. So let's go again, look at the back end for it. Again, same setup here for me, the variability, do play with them and see, but you can see a little bit that this is actually different. And I followed the PlayLab structure for this a little bit more. So PlayLab will give you their own structure of like, hey, do this first, do this second. And I actually followed that a little bit with this one here. So you're an expert in English grammar and specifically sentence types. Your role is to help ESL students show an understanding of noun clauses, etc. Going through here, you can see that I did put in the language level that I'm looking for. So SEFR B1, B2, depending on your choices. Now you'll see, and again, my prompts are here for you, so you can go in and look at this at your own pace later, but I'm very specific about what I'm looking for. And this is a very long prompt. This game took me actually quite a while to build, a couple of hours. I didn't build this one in like, 2 minutes and just rip it up. I really wanted to make sure that the responses and what it was going through, and I would get my own frustration. I'm like, oh, you're not doing what I want you to do, which is a common issue with all of these things. But you can still see, okay, I started fine tuning and I said, okay, steps 2A and then 2B and then game rules and all the different things I put inside of here, really trying to lock it down, because again, that variability can make some changes that you might not want when students are interacting with it. So the game is, how are you, one of the things we always have to consider is how flexible am I in the consistency of it. If I need it to be very consistent, then I might come back into here and change the variability or possibly change the chatbot to see and make it more consistent. But I like a little bit of creativity and I want it to come up with different things for different students. So then you might want to push it up. There's lots of different things. The students reacted to this experience well. This one they did like. They actually played with it a lot because we were integrating it directly into quote sandwiches in my class, and so we were talking about noun clauses. We were talking about using it in connection with articles that we had read. So then it's kind of like a lighter way to practice playing the language, and then they were able to use those same skills and those same patterns and templates in their actual writing assignments as well. All right. Let's we are running out of time here, so I'm gonna keep moving forward, but that is there for you to play with. We looked inside of that one a little bit, but we're not gonna have time, I think, for that round of breakouts, because I think, Cassandra, we're gonna run out of time for
Yeah,
everything and
I
make sure
think
we're
so.
talking on everything. All right, so we'll do the last one here, which is voice chatting practice. So we are not limited to typing. We can actually talk with a lot of these tools as well. Like I said before, PlayLab doesn't have a voice speaking option, but many of the other ones do. ChatGPT is one of them, so I'm going to show you ChatGPT just as a sample for what this might look like. Please, people, please feel free to leave responses of other chatbots, because I know the conversation about, like, well, paying and not paying and all these types of things. So if you have good chat ones and voice command ones that you like, please feel free to use those. So, or to share them out. But I'm just going to show an example here. So let me grab the prompt here. The
And
conversation.
Brent, I'll just add, yeah, maybe PlayLab will have it in the future. All these things keep evolving.
Yes,
But
PlayLab
yeah,
said specifically they will, but it's not
yep,
exactly when.
it's
So,
not yet. Yes.
all right. So here's the situation. Again, this is past tense. I use past tense for a lot of my builds, because I have a large Chinese student speaking population, and they do not have past tense in Chinese, and so it's one of the things that we often need to practice. But let's take a look at this. So let's play a game where you ask me questions about my weekend and I answer using the past tense. If I use the past tense correctly one time, you give me 1 point. If I use correctly 2 times in a single answer, you give me 2 points, and so on. If I use the past tense incorrectly or fail to use the past tense, you will take away 1 point. Okay. In the case where I use past tense incorrectly, please give me a brief feedback about the problem before continuing the conversation. The goal is for me to get to 5 points total. And in order to keep the conversation as natural as possible, you will use my answers to guide your follow-up questions. I had problems at the beginning. It kept moving into weird different conversations. It's like, okay, let's keep it on track. Please do not remind me of the rules of the game, and do not offer any suggestions to me to answer with. That one is hard. Negative prompts and negative commands don't always work in any of the AIs. As much as you say, don't do this, and it's like, it's the old don't think of a pink elephant, and it's like, okay, we're all thinking of the pink elephant thing, right? And so AI is guilty of that same thing. I have yet to find a really strong program that actually follows along with the negative prompts, but we still work with it. So here we go. When I asked for 5 points, if I asked if I want to keep practicing, so this is what it's going to look like. I'm going to send it in. First, it's going to be text, right? And so then I'm going to switch to the voice mode by clicking on the voice mode button down here. So it says, what did you do on Saturday morning? I am going to start with this. So I went to the beach with my friends.
Great. You used the past tense correctly once. That's 1 point. What did you and your friends do at the beach?
We digged a castle.
Nice job. That's another correct use of the past tense, so you earn 1 more point. You're at 2 points now. How was the weather while you were at the beach?
It is sunny.
Almost there. Remember to use the past tense. Instead of is sunny, you could say it was sunny. You're still at 2 points. What else did you do after building the sandcastle?
I go to the restaurant.
Close. The correct past tense form would be I went to the restaurant. You're now at 1 point. What did you order at the restaurant?
Okay, so you can see that it was inconsistent about recognizing. So I said digged instead of recognizing the irregular form dug a little bit. But look at this. We can also go back and actually look at the transcription inside of here. So as a teacher, I can go back and say, hey, this is what the real conversation actually looked like. I can ask students to click on this share button, for example. It says audio is not there, but they can still see the, I believe, oh, did they change it? Okay.
Oh,
um,
oh, Brent,
sorry.
sorry, did you give the prompt to, I missed that part. Someone asked on the chat, did you give this prompt to students? How do they, because as of
Yes,
now, it doesn't allow, right, customizing the
correct.
advanced voice.
Correct.
Okay.
So this was a prompt I gave to them. They'd cut and paste it in. We have access to, so I didn't do it with ChatGPT with my students. I did it with Copilot because we have institutional access, and again, the FERPA stuff, all of those things. But Copilot I didn't love because it kept giving suggestions at the bottom of it. And so when we're dealing with language learning and it's like, you should say this next, and I'm like, no, 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 like I want the students to figure out what to say right through the whole conversation. So so yes, basically I gave them this prompt, they cut it and paste it, and then they switch by clicking on the voice mode. So it recognizes the same prompt and then it just goes into voice mode afterwards.
Does the
Yes.
advanced voice still need a subscription?
Yeah, that was part of why I
But
said
sorry,
please share.
okay. So maybe not Gemini and others. Yeah, and this is all gonna, as they compete more, we're gonna have more and more availabilities. Yeah.
Yeah, it keeps swapping out. So you might need to do a little bit of exploration around what works for you, what doesn't work. You can see that it was a little bit inconsistent with the game, right? Like I said, hey, some of these, and then it didn't necessarily take away points when every time. So I'm not 100% sure every time, but still, again, it's the same thing when I tell my students with these things, hey, this is what it's supposed to do. It might not do that. Let's play with it. Let's just have some fun, right? And then we take the stress off of a whole thing where it's like, oh, it has to be right? And say, no, 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 you might not be making the mistakes. It might be the bot, but let's play with it and see. And then again, that same thing where the students get the chance to challenge the bot and kind of show their own autonomy and their own thinking around what's coming in and what's coming out. Because a lot of them would catch, for example, that digged and dug might be the wrong thing, at least at my class level. But you can also go in more specifically, you can keep practicing with it and building your own and seeing what the responses look like. Again, you have to be willing to say, I'm not looking for 100% perfect answers. I'm looking for exploration and opportunities for these things. And I want to open up my students to feel free to question it and ask me if they think that this information is right or wrong. Because part of the trick with AI is it feels so confident. We've said that this has been a true and a problem since the first days of opening up with, uh, whatever that was, December of 22. It was like, oh, it's really confident, but it's not necessarily right. And so we have to kind of keep that same thing in mind, even as we get more and more used to it. It's really confident. Don't know if I always trust the reality of what it's putting out. But again, these opportunities for talking, for sharing, for my students, this one is actually quite a big deal because so many of them, I have a bunch of students from all over the world, and they say, well, my English speaking time is in class. I'm like, you live in America, you have chances to speak English all day, every day, but they live in their communities where they don't necessarily spread out as much or whatever else is going on. And so they don't have to feel embarrassed when they're talking to the chat bots. They don't have to feel like, oh, I'm taking up someone's time in order to get the chat going. All of those kinds of things can be big removals of barriers for them to get them practicing and speaking more often in ways that often they might not do if they're looking for, a native English chat partner or trying to make time to get together with their friends. They can just do this anywhere. And so that opportunity, the technology to record and have themselves just practice at their own pace is really, really powerful. Accents are wild. William, I see your question in there. Accents are a wild, wild world that you can really dig deep into. It can be pretty good sometimes. Some of them, like in Copilot, you can actually go, there's some really interesting things. I've made a couple of videos about these in the past, but if you set up the mother language as one thing and then and English as the spoken language, it will actually respond to you in kind of what I would say is like borderline scary, not scary, but like all borderline racist language, right? Where it's like trying to imitate the voice and accent of another person. And so like if it was doing Japanese, it would add the to sound at the end of words that end with a T, right? So it would say, or like, my name is Brent, and so in Japanese, my name becomes Brento, right? And Burento, and it would actually pronounce it like that. And so there's weird things going on inside of there, and there's going to be a lot of confusion, I think, possibly. But most people aren't going that deep into the back end. But that can understand accents, and you can also, I think, you can continue to train it to learn accents as well. All right, so there's a lot to cover. We're almost out of time here, so I'm gonna wrap up and make sure you have a couple of time for questions. But if you're interested, I'm told that I have to tell people these things. I have a book coming out very soon from ISTE, and if you're interested in these conversations, I've got a podcast called Diesel: Developing Innovation in English as a Second or Other Language. Whew, I'm out of breath. I hope everybody's okay. I'm going to stop sharing, but I'll put this link back in for everybody in case you want to get access. You can definitely ignore the sign up list. You don't have to do it. All the resources are free, but if you want to be on the mailing list, that's also fine too. Let me stop sharing so we can chat.
Ah, you got an all caps from Noemi Brent. I think that means yay, Brent.
Thank you.
This is wonderful. You're getting a lot of love. Okay, a lot of love in the chat. So many questions we didn't get to. Um, I will collect everything and also put it in an anonymized chat in the document, and all the resources and many resources people shared. Thank you, thank you. Do you have a final piece of advice, Brent, for those that are so excited, they're so energized to hear from you? Like,
Yeah.
what's your number one advice for
Yeah.
building bots?
So start simple. I know I've given you complex prompts and longer ones to play with. And again, like I said, copy them, adjust every part, right? Your creativity and your students, you know them the best, right? And so the ways that you're going to customize for their needs is really going to be what makes it a unique experience for them. It's not just that like, hey, I'm talking to a bot or whatever else it is, right? It's about saying like, hey, I recognize that these are what you guys needs and your needs are, and let me make adjustments to help that. And so please feel free to cut parts that you don't like from the prompts that I've built, make total adjustments, add to it. I think this is the creativity building that we get to have and trying to help our students with those. And so explore freely, start simple, and then, take your steps up from there as you go.
Well, and I put a link to our exit survey so you could give more feedback there in that link. And our document has the link and information for next month. We do meet every month. I hope Brent will come back because we want to hear more from him. And I hope to see you all in the future. Stay in touch, use the networking, use the links, and use all the resources, and have fun.
Yeah. And I've got a few minutes, so in case anybody had a last, somebody wanted to shout out their question that got skipped. I'm sorry, I'm sure there were a lot of questions that got skipped.
But yes.
Can you just share that prompt, the last one that you put in about the past tense?
Yes, just a moment here. I'll put it right into the chat for you here, so you can snag it.
And I moved to Mexico when I was 20 something, been here ever since. And as a person that learned a language as an adult, like taking away a little bit of that friction. My mom's an English teacher. I was so mortified to be making mistakes in front of other humans. And so it really, I can see how this can help that pathway, right, to getting more comfortable. So congrats.
No, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, talk about dropping the effective filter for all of that process, right? And so I think that this is one thing that really does help students, and because they can get that practice and then try it out again later, right? And so it's really I've seen very they're like, oh, I can do this, that surprised look on students' faces. That's great.
Hey, Brent, I just have a quick question. I noticed you said when you go through the back end, you like the students to put in their names so that you can follow up to see that they participated. Were you, just out of curiosity, were you using this as like a graded activity or like participation points? Like how were you filtering for names?
Yeah, so I don't most of my classes I don't grade. I'm ungraded. So I use specifications grading and participation for well, not participation. They have to show me that they're doing their work, but it's basically complete or incomplete. Did they do the work or not? And did they show their skill set? But yes, I can go in. I like a lot of these for very, very low stakes options. So just getting started with things, because I don't trust grading with these, right? Like, hey, saying, hey, this is going to be your full grade. But you can look through and see like, hey, are you showing me that you've got the skill set? Are you showing me what you're doing? Okay, I'm seeing that you're not hitting that. Let me let's try it again next time around, and I'll check your next one and we'll see how you did on that.
I think my question is not so much from like your grading philosophy, but more like if you were to connect it to your grade book, is that something like it could be integrated into Canvas?
I know that PlayLab is working on that, but it does not currently integrate into Canvas. It does not link to the grade book.
Awesome.
So you'd have to go in one by one. Yeah.
That was so awesome. Thank you for your answers.
I see somebody in the chat has also been asking about, have you done anything as far as data collection about, I don't know, maybe something towards a white paper. I'm not sure really what they were asking, but I'm curious too.
Yeah.
I've done informal ones, not anything that you would consider rigorous, you know, like academic level research on it. But I've done, you know, research, or sorry, I do forms, so asking people to fill out surveys on their thoughts on whether they like these things or not. The majority of my students say that they do want, you know, want to play with these more. They want me to integrate them more into the classroom. I do have some students that resist it and say, I don't really want the tech. I don't really want the AI stuff, which I totally understand as well. And so part of that is like saying, how do we make solutions for the times when people don't like this stuff? And I think that's going to continue to be a future issue as well. I don't necessarily have all the best answers for it, though.
And I think this is an area a lot of us are more and more interested in. And just a shout out again to the big AI in education group. Last month, the big meeting had a discussion about research. So definitely join the group if you haven't yet to take advantage of these discussions. Jeremy. Yeah.
Thanks. Really interesting. A question I don't know if you can answer because it may be outside the scope, but outside of language, I'm curious if you've done other bots that just don't have to do language learning specifically, but use some of the tactics and kind of what would be like, whether you have or haven't, what would be a couple of use cases where you feel like these bots would be particularly useful for, you know, other skill areas or something, using the similar tactic, but for other topics. Curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you know, of course, content wise, you can kind of shift it around towards whatever you're trying to talk about in terms of content, right? So if you're doing a history class, you can have them do, you know, historical information. I have teachers on my campus that are really worried about that though, because of what is the accuracy or how well is it capturing that historical data and information, right? Which is very fair. And like, those are things that we want to double check on. One of the ones that PlayLab promotes and that I did, what was one of my first ideas too, and when I kind of got into it was they call it, you know, I think it's just kind of generally in the zeitgeist, the syllabot, right? So you upload your syllabus into it and you change that that percentage, that variability percentage down to 0, and so then students can ask questions about the syllabus and it's going to say, oh, I'm only pulling information from the syllabus in order to respond to these questions. So when students kind of have their one-off little questions, you say, well, you know, did you ask the syllabot? And it can go in there and it can kind of, without them having to read, because, you know, we started with 3-page syllabus. No, they're like 46 pages, right? And so so they can go in and find things like that. So adding resources and then having them use those as you know, data points for them to pull from can be a really powerful one too.
That's great. Thank you.
And I do recommend, yeah, our meeting. We've had a lot of subjects covered from medicine to biology, English. Next month we're having English. Jason Goulia speaking about bots for English and writing.
Wonderful. Yeah, please feel free to reach out to me, anybody, if you have follow-up questions or anything like that. I know I want to respect your time. We already got a couple minutes over, but you can find me at Brent G. Warner and through the links that are in the documents as well. Please feel free to reach out if you have further questions later on too.